The crystalline dome of the Galactic Council chamber caught the light of 3 moons, casting rainbow patterns across the assembled representatives. Senior Representative Zixtal adjusted their ceremonial robes, silver fabric rippling like liquid mercury in the ethereal light. 200 cycles of diplomatic service had led to this moment, and they intended to make the most of it. Esteemed colleagues, Zixtal began, their translator converting musical tones into the standard galactic exchange language. I present for your consideration Sol 3, designated locally as Earth. A holographic projection materialized above the central table, showing a blue-green planet wrapped in swirling white clouds. The assembled representatives barely looked up from their data screens. Another routine conquest proposal, another primitive world to be guided into the galactic community. Some continued their side conversations in hushed whistles and clicks, while others scrolled through unrelated reports. Zixtal cleared their throat membrane, a sound like chiming bells. Initial surveys indicate a technological civilization in its early spacefaring stage. They have achieved lunar landing capabilities and maintained a modest orbital presence. The hologram shifted to show the International Space Station and various satellites orbiting the planet. Representative Murix of the Commerce Guild flicked through the preliminary report. Population: approximately 8 billion individuals, Zixtal responded, bringing up a population density map, primarily concentrated in urban centers along coastlines and major waterways. This number caused a few representatives to look up with mild interest. A substantial workforce, if properly managed. Zixtal felt a surge of satisfaction as they noticed the subtle shift in attention. Their political structure is fractured, they continued, displaying a map of Earth's nations. No unified planetary government. Multiple competing power structures with varying levels of technological development. Their most advanced military capabilities include nuclear fission weapons, rudimentary drone systems, and early artificial intelligence implementations. Representative the Z of the Security Council tapped their claws against the table. Resource evaluation. Zixtal's outer membrane rippled with excitement. This was the hook they'd been waiting for. Extensive deposits of rare Earth elements. Significant biological diversity. Large liquid water reserves. But most notably, they paused for effect. Their planet contains the largest easily accessible concentration of californium-251 in the sector. That got their attention. Several representatives straightened in their hover seats, their species equivalent of raised eyebrows or widened eyes, showing sudden interest. Californium-251 was essential for the newest generation of quantum fold drives, and natural deposits were exceptionally rare. The natives are, of course, unaware of this resource's true value, Zixtal added smoothly. They've barely scratched the surface of their planet's potential. As per standard protocols, I propose a Class 3 integration process. We establish a presence, demonstrate our technological superiority, and offer them the choice between peaceful submission or formal objection. The voice rang out across the chamber like a thunderclap, causing several representatives to startle in their seats. Zixtal's presentation flickered as their concentration wavered. They turned toward the chamber entrance, irritation building in their neural clusters, ready to denounce whoever dared interrupt their carefully planned proposal. The words died in their speech sacs as they recognized the figure gliding through the grand doors. Representative Katheri, their ancient scales shimming with embedded data crystals earned over millennia of service. The chamber's AI immediately acknowledged their presence, creating a priority speaking podium next to Zixtal's physician. Honored Katheri, the council leader's voice resonated through the chamber. You invoke your right of emergency intervention. I do. Katheri's voice carried the weight of centuries. And I submit that this proposal is not merely ill-advised. Their multifaceted eyes fixed on Zixtal with an intensity that made their scales ripple involuntarily. It is potentially catastrophic. The council chamber's soft ambient hum faded to silence as Katheri moved toward the central platform. Their ancient scales caught the light of the 3 moons, each embedded data crystal telling its own story of worlds assessed, civilizations contacted, and wisdom earned across centuries of service. Catastrophic. Zixtal's tone carried a hint of indignation, their silver robes rustling as they turned to face the ancient representative. With all due respect, honored Ketheri, Earth is a fractured world that hasn't even achieved unified planetary governance. Their most advanced vessels can barely reach their own satellite. Ketheri's multifaceted eyes shifted through various spectrum analyses as they studied the holographic display of Earth. Tell me, young Zixtal, how long did it take your species to progress from first powered flight to reaching your moon? Approximately 300 cycles, Zixtal answered, membrane rippling with confusion at the seemingly irrelevant question. And your kind are considered quick learners. Ketheri's appendages danced across the holographic controls. Humans accomplished the same feat in 66 Earth years, from first flight to lunar landing in less than a single human lifetime. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Representative Vizet's claws stopped their rhythmic tapping. A curious anomaly, Zixtal conceded, but hardly. Computer, Ketheri interrupted, their voice carrying the weight of emergency protocol authority. Display Earth's technological progression timeline, with standard galactic development curves for comparison. The hologram transformed into a series of overlapping lines. Most followed gentle curves of technological development, spreading across thousands of cycles. Earth's line shot upward at an angle that caused several representatives to emit their species' equivalent of a gasp. This is not a primitive world, colleagues. Ketheri moved through the hologram, their scales refracting the light into dancing patterns. This is a technological pressure cooker. In the time it takes most species to optimize their first computational engine, humans have progressed from mechanical calculators to quantum processing experiments. The Commerce Guild representative, Orcs, leaned forward. Surely this indicates they would benefit from proper guidance. Their rapid advancement shows potential for integration. No. Ketheri's response was sharp enough to cause Orcs to recoil slightly. Their advancement rate is a warning signal. Computer, display adaptation response metrics from first contact scenarios. Last 1,000 cycles. New data filled the air. Ketheri pointed to a specific cluster of points far above the others. These outliers represent species with extraordinary adaptation capabilities. Species that, when exposed to advanced technology, demonstrated unprecedented rates of reverse engineering and implementation. Their eyes fixed on the council leader. Earth's projected adaptation rate exceeds these by an order of magnitude. Impossible, Zixtal protested, but their voice had lost its earlier confidence. Ketheri's appendages wove complex patterns as they manipulated the display. Humans possess a unique combination of traits we have never encountered before. Their political fragmentation, which you noted as a weakness, drives parallel development paths. Their regional competitions fuel innovation at a pace that unified species cannot match. The ancient representative paused, allowing the implications to sink in. But most concerning is their psychological profile. Computer, initiate Restricted Access Protocol K-17. Display Species Imagination Index Analysis. The chamber's lighting dimmed as new data streamed into view. Ketheri's voice grew solemn. What you are about to see will fundamentally change how we view Earth. This is not a world that needs our guidance. This is a world that has been unconsciously preparing for contact with advanced civilizations for generations. And their preparations, Ketheri's scales shifted to a deep warning hue, are unlike anything we have ever encountered. Ketheri's claws traced delicate patterns in the air as the holographic display shifted. A simple stone tool appeared, rotating slowly above the council table. This implement, they explained, was crafted approximately 2 million Earth years ago. A relatively simple beginning, unremarkable among developing species. The tool dissolved, replaced by a rapid succession of images, spears, pottery, bronze weapons, iron forges. Representative Zixtal's outer membrane rippled with impatience. We have all seen technological progression sequences before. Wait, Ketheri commanded softly. The progression reached the industrial age, and the pace changed dramatically. Steam engines evolved into internal combustion, horse-drawn carriages gave way to automobiles, and primitive flying machines transformed into supersonic aircraft. Representative Morix's sensory tendrils curled in confusion. The timestamps must be incorrect. This sequence suggests 300 years, Theory confirmed. From burning coal to splitting atoms. From simple mechanical calculators to artificial intelligence. From basic gunpowder to fusion weapons. The ancient representative scales shifted to a deep blue of concern. But it's not just the speed that should worry us. Computer, display adaptation patterns alpha through epsilon. The chamber filled with new data streams, showing how human technology had evolved in response to various challenges. Notice, Theory continued, how each setback generates multiple parallel development paths. When one approach fails, humans don't simply try again. They pursue dozens of alternative solutions simultaneously. The Security Council representative, the Z, clicked their claws together thoughtfully. This suggests a concerning level of resource dedication. Such parallel development should drain their economy. On the contrary, Theory brought up new economic data. Their competitive nature and fragmented political structure create multiple independent research paths. When one group lacks resources, another continues the work. Their global information network allows innovations to spread rapidly, while their cultural differences lead to unique approaches to similar problems. The holographic display zoomed in on a specific example, the development of flight. It showed how different human nations had pursued various approaches simultaneously, each innovation building on others' successes and failures. Within decades, they had progressed from basic gliders to vehicles that could break the sound barrier. Most concerning, Theory's voice grew even more serious, is their response to failure. Computer, display the Mars mission analyses. The chamber filled with images of various Mars exploration attempts, including both successes and failures. Observe how each failure leads not to discouragement, but to renewed effort with improved methods. They learn from each mistake with remarkable efficiency. The council leader stirred, their crystalline form catching the moonlight. You suggest this makes them a threat. I suggest this makes them unique. Theory manipulated the display to show comparison data from 1,000 other species' development paths. Most civilizations follow predictable patterns. They advance in logical steps, mastering each technology before moving to the next. Humans, the representative paused, choosing their words carefully. Humans throw themselves at problems with seemingly reckless abandon, yet their apparent chaos masks an extraordinary adaptability. The display shifted again, showing Earth's current space programs. They launched their first satellite just over 60 years ago. Now they're already experimenting with technologies that hint at principles we considered impossible to discover at their development stage. They've begun theorizing about concepts that border on quantum fold physics, despite having no confirmation such things are possible. Theory scales rippled with an emotion few in the chamber had ever seen the ancient representative display. Admiration mixed with concern. But what truly sets them apart isn't their technology. Computer, prepare to display restricted file Earth Omega. Their response to theoretical external threats. The holographic display transformed into a complex web of interconnected nodes, each pulsing with different colors and intensities. Theory moved through the projection, their ancient scales reflecting the dancing lights as they gestured at specific connections. What you're seeing, they explained, is humanity's current global research network. Unlike traditional development hierarchies, their system has no central control point. The representative highlighted several particularly bright nodes. These represent their major research institutions, but observe how information flows between them. The council members watched as pulses of light traveled through the web in seemingly random patterns. Some moved directly between major nodes, while others took circuitous routes through smaller points of light. Most remarkable, Theory continued, is their concept of open-source development. They zoomed in on a cluster of smaller nodes. These represent individual humans or small groups working independently yet contributing to larger projects. They solve problems simply because they exist, without direct economic incentive. Zixtal's membrane rippled with skepticism. Surely such chaos reduces efficiency, without proper centralized direction. On the contrary, Theory interrupted, bringing up a new data set. Their decentralized approach creates remarkable resilience. Computer, simulate a standard conquest disruption pattern. The display showed several major nodes going dark, representing the typical first strike of a planetary conquest. In most species development webs, such an attack would cripple technological progress. But in Earth's network, the dark areas were quickly circumvented, new connections forming almost immediately. They call it distributed development, Theory explained. Even their military research follows this pattern. Computer, display Project Manhattan comparison. The hologram shifted to show two parallel timelines. When humans first developed atomic weapons, they had multiple teams working on different approaches simultaneously. If one path failed, another succeeded. They even had competing teams working on the same problems, each finding unique solutions. Representative Murix's sensory tendrils writhed in confusion. Such redundancy seems wasteful, yet it produces results at an unprecedented rate. Catharid highlighted a series of technological leaps. Their greatest innovations often come from unexpected sources. Computer, display civilian technology adaptation examples. The chamber filled with images of human technologies being repurposed in surprising ways. Simple communication devices transformed into complex networks. Gaming systems repurposed for scientific calculations. Entertainment technology adapted for medical imaging. They call it thinking outside the box. Theory said, their scales shifting to a color indicating deep respect. A concept so fundamental to their problem-solving that they had to invent a metaphor to describe it. They deliberately seek unconventional solutions, approaching problems from angles that other species would consider illogical. The council leaders' crystalline form sparkled as they leaned forward. You suggest this makes them dangerous. I suggest this makes them unpredictable. Theory manipulated the display to show a series of human innovations that had occurred by accident. They discovered some of their most important advances while looking for something else entirely. Their greatest strength isn't their technology. It's their ability to adapt and repurpose it in ways we cannot anticipate. The ancient representative paused, allowing the implications to sink in. And now, consider what would happen if we gave them access to advanced technology. Computer, initiate simulation sequence Omega-7. As the new simulation began to form, Theory's voice grew solemn. But before we view these results, you need to understand something even more crucial about humans. Something that makes all these traits exponentially more significant. Their scales shifted to a deep violet of urgency. You need to see how they imagine their future. And us. In their stories. The chamber's lighting dimmed as Theory initiated the new data stream. What you are about to see, they announced, is perhaps the most remarkable aspect of human civilization. Computer, display entertainment media category 7. First contact scenarios. The holographic space filled with thousands of images, video clips, and text excerpts, all showing different versions of humanity meeting alien civilizations. The council members watched in growing astonishment as scenario after scenario played out, ranging from peaceful encounters to defensive stands. For over a century, Theory explained, humans have been actively imagining contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. They call this form of speculative imagination science fiction, but don't dismiss it as mere entertainment. The display focused on a series of early rocket designs. These were conceived by humans who wrote stories about space travel decades before it became possible. The engineers who later built actual spacecraft often cited these tales as inspiration. Representative Vizet's claws clicked thoughtfully. They imagined things before creating them. Precisely. Theory's scales shifted to a shade indicating enthusiasm. But it goes far deeper. Computer display technological prediction accuracy metrics. New data streams showed correlations between human fiction and subsequent technological developments. Their storytellers described touchscreen interfaces 50 years before development. They envisioned global communication networks when their fastest message service still relied on physical delivery. The council leaders' crystalline form sparkled with interest. Creative precognition is not unknown among species. But this scale is unprecedented, Thury countered, manipulating the display to show more examples. They don't just imagine single innovations. They extrapolate entire future societies, complete with psychological and social implications of new technologies. The representation highlighted specific human fiction works, showing how they had influenced real scientific research. Their scientists and storytellers exist in a continuous feedback loop. Fiction inspires science, which in turn inspires new fiction. Zixtal's membrane rippled with renewed concern. Surely these are just stories. Stories that have prepared them for possibilities they haven't even encountered yet. Thury brought up a new series of images. They've imagined thousands of ways first contact might occur. They've mentally rehearsed countless scenarios for both peaceful exchange and defensive necessity. The display showed clips of humans working on theoretical technologies. These researchers are developing countermeasures for technologies they haven't even confirmed exist. They call it speculative engineering, preparing solutions for problems they can only imagine. Representative Murix's sensory tendrils curled in disbelief. They design defenses against theoretical threats. They do more than that, Thury replied, their scales shifting to a deep shade of reverence. They actively seek out potential challenges to solve. Computer display the Planetary Defense Thought Experiment Archives. The chamber filled with human-designed protocols and technologies specifically created to protect Earth from advanced civilizations. The council members watched in silence as diagram after diagram showed increasingly sophisticated defensive concepts. These aren't military plans, Thury explained. These are collaborative thought experiments, shared openly across their global information network. Millions of humans, continuously refining and improving theoretical defensive strategies. The ancient representative paused, allowing the implications to sink in. In preparing to meet us, they have imagined technologies we actually possess. Some of their theoretical countermeasures would be effective against our real capabilities, not because they knew what to expect, but because they imagined every possibility they could conceive. Thury's scales shifted to a warning hue. And now, consider what happens when these prepared minds encounter actual advanced technology. Computer, initiate simulation sequence Beta 9. Human adaptation to confirmed extraterrestrial presence. The simulation crystallized into a detailed map of Earth's solar system, with countless tiny points of light representing both human-made satellites and natural objects. Thury manipulated the display, highlighting specific clusters of data. What you're seeing now is humanity's current space monitoring capability. Their scales shifted through analytical patterns as they zoomed in on specific areas. Pay particular attention to these orbital patterns they flagged as anomalous. The council members watched as several trajectories were highlighted in pulsing red. Representative Thizet's claws clicked in recognition. Those are our observation drone paths. Precisely. Thury's voice carried a note of approval. Humans have detected every single observation mission we've sent. While they currently attribute these to natural phenomena, they're tracking them with remarkable precision. Computer, display their classification system. The hologram shifted to show Earth's catalog of unexplained aerial phenomena. Countless incidents were logged, categorized, and cross-referenced with scientific rigor. They're building a database of our activities, even though they don't know what they're documenting. Zixtal's membrane rippled with renewed interest, but they haven't confirmed our existence. No, Thury agreed, but observe their methodology. The display showed Earth's various space observation networks, from radio telescopes to gravitational wave detectors. They're not just passively watching. They're actively searching, using multiple detection methods simultaneously. The ancient representative highlighted a particular section of data. Most concerning is their progress in theoretical physics. Computer, display Project Alcubierre comparison. A new hologram appeared, showing parallel streams of equations. On one side, standard galactic calculations for fold space travel. On the other, humanity's theoretical work on what they called warp drives. Without any confirmation that faster-than-light travel is possible, Cthulhu explained, they've independently derived several of our basic principles. Their mathematics is different, their approach unique, but the underlying concepts align with our own discoveries. The council leader's crystalline form sparkled with concern. How did they achieve this? By asking questions we never thought to ask. Cthulhu brought up a series of human research papers. They approach physics from angles our species abandoned cycles ago. Their theories seem primitive at first glance, but contain insights we overlooked. The display shifted to show Earth's quantum research facilities. They're already pushing the boundaries of quantum mechanics, exploring concepts that took other species centuries to consider. Their crude experiments are asking sophisticated questions. Representative Morix's sensory tendrils writhed anxiously. Surely their equipment is too primitive to. Their equipment is primitive, Cthulhu interrupted, but their experimental design is elegant. Computer, display the quantum entanglement comparison metrics. The chamber filled with data showing how humans had achieved quantum effects using surprisingly simple apparatus. They excel at finding unconventional solutions with limited resources, given access to our technology. Cthulhu's scales shifted to a deep warning purple. Most crucial is their pattern recognition capability. The representative highlighted a series of seemingly random data points. These are energy signatures from our last 3 stealth survey missions. No other pre-contact species has ever noticed them. Humans not only detected them, but are actively trying to reproduce the effect. Cthulhu paused, their ancient scales rippling with complex emotions. They're reverse engineering our technology without even confirming its existence. They're solving puzzles they don't know are puzzles. The representative's voice grew solemn. And now let me show you what our simulations predict would happen if they gained access to even a small sample of our actual technology. The chamber's ambient light dimmed as Cthulhu initiated the simulation sequence. What you are about to witness, they announced, is based on our most sophisticated predictive models, incorporating all known data about human advancement patterns. The holographic space filled with a timeline projection, branching into multiple potential futures. We'll begin with a standard conquest scenario, Cthulhu stated, selecting one branch. Computer, execute simulation alpha. The council watched as the simulation displayed a conventional planetary subjugation attempt. Initial strikes eliminated major power centers, just as Zixtal had proposed. But then the simulation diverged from expected patterns. Notice, Cthulhu pointed to multiple points of resistance, how quickly humans adapt to new situations. Within days of encountering our technology, they begin to understand its principles. Within weeks, they start replicating basic components. Representative Vizet's claws clicked rapidly. Impossible. The knowledge gap is too wide. Observe. Cthulhu expanded the simulation, showing human response patterns. They don't need to understand how something works to use it effectively. They discover applications we never considered. Computer, display innovation divergence metrics. New data streams appeared, showing how humans modified captured technology. They don't just copy, they improve. Each adaptation spawns multiple variations, each tested simultaneously by different groups. The simulation advanced, showing Earth's development curve after first contact. The line shot upward at an angle that caused several council members to emit involuntary sounds of distress. Within 1 Earth year, Cthulhu continued, their scales shifting to deep indigo. They achieved technological parity in key defensive areas. Within 5 years, they begin developing hybrid technologies that combine our principles with approaches we never considered. Zixtal's membrane rippled violently. but our technological advantage becomes a liability, Cthulhu finished. Every piece of advanced technology we deploy gives them more to study, more to adapt, more to improve upon. Computer, display parallel development paths. The hologram split into dozens of simultaneous timelines, each showing different human groups pursuing various technological advances. Their decentralized nature, which you saw as a weakness, becomes their greatest strength. No single strike can stop their progress. The council leader's crystalline form pulsed with concern. Show us a peaceful contact scenario. Ferry nodded, adjusting the simulation. Even with peaceful interaction, the rate of advancement exceeds safe parameters. Observe their response to controlled technology sharing. The new simulation showed a measured approach to introducing advanced technology. Yet the human advancement curve still rose at an alarming rate. They fill in gaps in their knowledge with remarkable intuition. They make cognitive leaps that bypass centuries of gradual development. Representative Morix's sensory tendrils coiled tightly. Surely there must be a safe approach. That, Cthulhu said, their scales shifting to a lighter shade, is what makes this situation unique. Computer, display humanity's current trajectory without our interference. A new line appeared, showing Earth's natural development path. They are approaching a crucial threshold. Within a century, they will likely achieve interstellar capabilities on their own, but they will do so having developed their own philosophical and ethical framework. The ancient representative manipulated the display one final time, showing a series of possible futures. Our interference, whether hostile or peaceful, disrupts this natural progression. Moreover, it risks creating exactly what we fear, a rapidly advancing civilization with every reason to distrust galactic society. Theory's scales rippled with certainty as they prepared their final revelation. But perhaps most importantly, we must consider what they might teach us. Computer, display the Innovation Potential Index. It's time we saw what humanity might offer the galaxy, if we're wise enough to wait. The council chamber hung in silence as Cthulhu's final projections faded away. The light of the three moons cast gentle shadows across the assembled representatives, each lost in their own contemplation of what they had witnessed. The council leader's crystalline form sparkled as they finally spoke. In all my cycles of service, I have never encountered a situation quite like this. Representative Cthulhu, your analysis suggests we face not just a unique civilization, but a unique opportunity. Indeed, Cthulhu's scales shifted to a thoughtful blue-green. Humanity stands at a crossroads, but so do we. Computer, display the Innovation Potential graph one final time. The hologram materialized, showing humanity's possible development paths. The central line, representing their natural progression, glowed with particular brightness. What we've observed is not just their capacity for advancement, but their potential for original thought. Zixtal, their earlier confidence now tempered by understanding, raised a question. You suggest we simply wait and watch. I suggest we do something unprecedented. Cthulhu moved through the projection, their ancient scales refracting the light in complex patterns. I propose we classify Earth as a civilization of special emergence, a new category specifically created for this unique situation. The chamber stirred with murmurs as Cthulhu continued. This classification would mandate not just observation, but preparation. We prepare ourselves for the day humanity reaches the stars on their own terms. Representative Vizet's claws clicked thoughtfully. They may develop very differently from galactic standard. Precisely why they're valuable. Cthulhu's scales rippled with enthusiasm. Their unique development path, their original approaches to problems, their ability to imagine possibilities we've never considered. These are gifts to the galactic community, but only if we allow them to mature naturally. The council leader's form pulsed with decision-making light patterns. What of the Californium deposits that prompted this proposal? They become part of our responsibility to protect. Cthulhu responded. We establish a quiet quarantine, not to contain humanity, but to preserve their independence. No interference, no resource extraction, no premature contact. Representative Murix's sensory tendrils waved with curiosity. How long must we wait? Until they're ready. Kthari brought up a new display showing various technological benchmarks. When they achieve sustainable interstellar travel, when they've developed their own solutions to cosmic challenges, when they've formed their own unified approach to the galaxy, then we reveal ourselves, not as guides or conquerors, but as equals ready to learn from their unique perspective. The council leader rose, their crystalline form casting rainbow patterns across the chamber. We will vote on this unprecedented proposal. Representative Kthari has suggested not just a new classification, but a new approach to emerging civilizations. One by one, the council members registered their decisions. The chamber's ambient lighting shifted with each vote, building toward a clear consensus. It is decided, the council leader announced. Earth is hereby classified as a civilization of special emergence. All observation will be conducted under strict non-interference protocols. Furthermore, a protective quarantine zone will be established to prevent unauthorized contact. Zixtal's membrane rippled with acceptance as they formally withdrew their conquest proposal. Kthari's scales shifted to a deep shade of satisfaction as the council leader continued. Let it be recorded that on this day, we chose to protect and preserve a unique path of development. We look forward to the day when humanity reaches the stars on their own terms, bringing new perspectives to our galactic community. As the council session concluded, Kthari activated one final hologram, a simple view of Earth from space, a blue jewel suspended in darkness. They dream of the stars, the ancient representative mused, and when they reach them, they will do so as themselves, not as our creation. That will make all the difference.